live graphically sensual. They will assault your senses. They are incorporated. They will bend your mind, shatter your sanity, and seal your fate. Lethal Ladies Inc. Try us on for size. We will take your breath away.
Hanging around with Dick. So many movies, which one to pick? Exploitation overload, crazy comedies, kung fu fun, horror by the pound. Hanging around with Dick. So many movies, which one will you pick? Hanging around with Dick. So many movies, which one will you pick? Will you pick?
Howdy, gang, and welcome to yet another edition of Dick's Fix. Hopefully, this week I will do better than last week about keeping up with all the different streams that I want to do. I'm not planning on working, as late as I did last week, burn the midnight oil, as I like to call it. So hopefully tomorrow there will be a cannon fodder, and then Thursday will be they're all messed up, both of which were rescheduled from last week. No watch alongs this weekend. I'm going to get a little bit of housekeeping stuff out of the way before we start talking about Pieces and Invaders of the Lost Gold, which are the two Dick Randall produced movies I'm going to be talking about tonight. But there is a Evil Dead Chick Slasher Fest coming up on my birthday. So that'll be at 7 p.m. Eastern time this Friday, June the 6th. We're going to be watching The Burning and Bloody Birthday. And of course, Bloody Birthday is in honor of my birthday, my 49th birthday. I'm getting to be an old woman, gang. But I'm still out here trying to put out good content in any event. So be sure to tune in for that if you're at all interested. I'll have my popcorn and my soft drink of choice. And it's going to be a lot of fun. Those of you that attended the first one, where I had to cut it off a little bit early, 24 minutes early to be exact, because of severe weather. Hopefully we won't run into that this time around, and I can stay on for the duration. But it appeared that you folks out there did like Evil Dead Chick Slasher Fest, the first one, where we watched, oh gosh, what did we watch? Oh, that's awful. I'm just totally forgetting what. See, I keep saying it's the COVID junk. It's just messed me up really bad. Friday the 13th. I thought it was Friday the 13th. I just wasn't sure. Friday the 13th and Sleepaway Camp. And Sleepaway Camp was the second feature. So that was the one I had to skedaddle out of here 24 minutes before it ended, due to I didn't know what it was going to do as far as severe weather at that point in time. Okay. Keep in mind that you can play movie roulette tonight, because this is a live stream. And how do you play movie roulette, you might ask? Well, you can give a $5 or more super chat and you can pick any movie of your choosing for me to watch and do a review of. I'll be doing an upcoming movie roulette for What We Do in the Shadows, which was a movie chosen by Menelect for me to watch and review. I'm looking forward to it. Um, I believe it's, related to vampires, but I know of the movie. I just had not gotten around to watching it. Um, there's some VHS overload where I'm talking about more VHS covers. Um, what else we got out there? I have another review for a movie that I thought I was going to hate. Hence, another Evil Dead Chick Eats Crow, where I talk about the new Final Destination Bloodlines that Steve and I watched here in the past week or so. Well, the past weekend. Also, want to remind you guys and gals, if you haven't hopped on over to deaditesondeck.com, my horror shop, be sure to do so. I've got a lot of designs for t-shirts and tote bags and mouse pads. I've got blended teas on there. I've got candles on there. So hop on over there and see if there's something that you can get for yourself or your significant other, a family member, or a friend. And keep in mind also, folks, that if you're not into horror, never fear. I do custom work. So there's a handy dandy form on deaditesondeck.com, and you can fill that out and tell me exactly what you're interested in. I could put your kids, your grandkids, even your significant other, your pets on t-shirts or tote bags or mouse pads or what have you. Just let me know how I can help you out. I will quote you a price, and if we agree and you send me the money, I will be glad to create some custom work for you. All right. There are also plushies. Well, there's going to be plushies on the site. I just haven't got off my lazy duck and actually done it. Poe is the actual first pyro plushie that I've created. There will be soon a plushie for RJ as soon as, again, I get off my lazy butt and do that. Those are going to be $50 a piece because they are hand sewn. And it takes fabric and it takes stuffing and it takes thread and all those things, and it takes my time because I haven't yet gotten fast at doing these plushies. So Poe took me a little bit, but I got him put together. And no one Poe or no one RJ or any other plushies I make, one's not going to be like the other. They're one of a kind. And when I get those up on the site, the Booga Booga Bears will drop in price to around $30. So if you've been, on the fence about getting a Booga Booga Bear, which is basically a teddy bear that I purchased and put a design on the teddy bear shirt of your choosing. Okay. So, I think that's it. Oh, be sure to check out the movie munchies, the latest movie munchies I did for slaughtered lamb pub cheese. That stuff is delicious, folks. Be sure to check that out as well if you have not. All right, so now let's get into this week's Dick's Picks. And the first movie I'm going to talk about is probably no stranger to any of you horror, slasher, exploitation fans out there. And that is Pieces. You don't have to go to Texas for a chainsaw massacre, and it's exactly what you think it is. And those were the two taglines that I saw back in my video rental days that got me to rent this sucker, right? Or have my parents rent it back in the days because I was too young to get it on my own. But I remember watching this primarily with my mom the first time around. I mean, Dad might have been there, but a lot of horror movies, when I was a kid, and also, in my upper teens, in my 20s, I remember even into my 30s, because I was a late bloomer before I left mom and dad's house. So um, I remember watching a ton of horror movies with my mom. Um, so, what is Pieces about? You may ask, in case you are not familiar with the film. So, we start out the movie with a young boy who's putting together a puzzle. Seems pretty innocent enough until we notice that he's putting together a puzzle of a naked lady. His mother comes up behind him and she is just livid and perhaps abusive as well because she calls him, she's looking on him fondly as he's putting together this puzzle. But when she sees what the puzzle is, what he's actually putting together, she gets enraged, calls him a little brat, calls him stupid, slaps him upside the head, and talks about what a terrible person his father was, that his father left all this dirty, filthy stuff. Um, and she tells him, get a bag so we can junk all this stuff. I don't even want this in the house. So she's, finding stuff all over the room where the boy is at in the toy box and all that. And she said, I bet he's got stuff hid all over the place. And I'm not sure. I think she's probably talking about her son rather than her husband, that her son has found this stuff and then he's, hid it away different places. Um, so the last thing she says before the inevitable happens in this horror movie is, hurry up, stupid, and bring me a bag. So the next thing you know, her son is behind her with an axe and he chops mommy up, basically. Um, and the nosy neighbor tries to, you know, raise somebody at the house. She's, I don't know if she's wanting to borrow a cup of sugar from Mrs. Weston or what she's wanting to do. But I guess she tries calling because the phone rings, and you can see as the phone is ringing that the little boy is cutting mommy up after chopping her up. He's, I guess finishing the job and cutting the limbs off, and you can see him smiling as he's cutting. I mean, this movie does not waste any time. Obviously, this kid um, had some peculiarities before, mommy was getting all violent with him. So, um, so the nosy neighbor comes back with the cops. They bust open the door. They go upstairs, and the old nosy neighbor's like, when they bust into the upstairs room, there's blood all over the place, and she's like, "Oh my god," and the cops are like, it looks like something was butchered up here. And the dialogue is dubbed, folks. So if it seems a little bit off, then you can forgive it for that. It is a Spanish film directed by Juan Piquer Simon, and of course produced by Dick Randall. Um, I just lost everybody, so I don't know. But anyways, so they open one of the closet doors and there's Mrs. Weston's head, and the old woman said, oh my God, I knew something terrible had happened. Oh my God. And then she says, little Timmy, which we are to assume that that's the little boy. And you hear mommy, mommy, and crying coming from another closet. And the cops open the door and this little boy comes out. He's spattered in blood and he's like, mommy, mommy, big man, big man. So he's made up this story that a man came in there and butchered his mother and left him, alone. So the nosy neighbor says, his father's away in the Air Force, but there's an aunt, an Airway, I think she says, She says, I'll call her and take him over there. Then we go into the beginning credits. And then we're on a college campus. And apparently the boy is grown up and he's wanting to put mommy back together piece by piece by piece, basically. And so he starts chainsawing the co-eds at this college that have just the parts he needs, whether it's a head or a torso, some legs, arms, whatever. This movie has got all kinds of limbs and body parts being lopped off with a very large chainsaw. And you have a lot of red herrings in this. The anatomy teacher, um, the janitor Willard, who does, carry around a chainsaw at some points. But anybody that's seen, as many of these movies as I have, that the most obvious person is never the killer. It's usually somebody more unassuming. I'm just going to leave it there. So you have a girl getting her arms lopped off one at a time in an elevator, blood squirting out everywhere. You have one of the most spectacularly, I guess, painful, but fascinating still. Yeah, it's one of those things that you just can't tear your eyes away from the screen. I hate that, that a pig had to be used for this, but I'm assuming that the pig was dead by the time they got it. So there is a scene where a girl is chased around the locker room and she pees on herself and then she is basically sliced in half from the waist down. Now, the close up shot, because she doesn't have a top on at the time, to me, it really looks like it's going through flesh. And it is going through flesh. It's going through pig flesh and not people flesh, thank goodness, But it's, to me, it's very realistic because it's up close. You actually see the chainsaw cutting through the flesh. And then later you see the girl, like her top half, just sitting on the floor with a bunch of blood and guts and all that around there. A girl gets her head cut off while studying. Some of the effects are a little better than others, but this is I don't know, it's a fun little slice of exploitation is what I think of it as. Now, some people might say it's misogynistic, that's awful. People shouldn't be doing that, even in the fantasy world of movies. But I instead chose to have fun with this movie. And it has one of those endings that's got to be seen to be believed, right? Okay. So for all of these reasons, and we got Edmund Pertleman here. And as Steve calls him, Jumpin' Jack Taylor, who Jack Taylor's in a lot of Spanish movies. I don't believe he's Spanish, but he's in a lot of Spanish movies. Christopher George is in it. Linda Day George is in it. Frank Brana, who was in a ton of Spanish horror films, and probably Spanish films just in general, right? And Ian Sarah as the local collegiate playboy that runs around. Kendall, who apparently all the girls, want to be with Kendall. They can't keep themselves from screaming when they're in bed with Kendall, apparently. So Ian Sayre's going to show up in another Dick Randall produced film later on in this series called Extraterrestrial Visitors. And he's a real dick in that one. He's not too bad in this one, other than jumping in one woman's bed right after the other. And I think he wants to get a little taste of Linda Day George's character of Mary as well. So, yeah, it's just a fun little piece of exploitation, right? So, I'm going to give Pieces, and y'all could probably guess what I'm going to give Pieces, knowing my track record. And I'm going to give Pieces 5 Deadites out of 5 because this is a movie I can watch anytime. Don't have to wait for a certain time of the year. I mean, you don't have to wait a certain time of the year. You can watch Halloween in the springtime if you want to, right? You can watch Friday the 13th in the dead of winter. But um, there are some movies that I kind of try to reserve for certain holidays, like my Christmas horror and stuff like that. But Pieces, excuse me, is one that I could watch any time of the year, day or night, Monday through Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It does not matter. Pieces is that much fun, folks. If you are a horror fan, if you're a gore fan, if you're a slasher fan, Pieces it should be in your repertoire of movies to watch, right? All right. So that is Pieces. Now, the next one, I do not actually have a physical copy of it. In fact, I had to download this. Um, and it took me about 15 hours. Yes, folks, 15 hours to download this from rareloves.com. It's a site that you can find a lot of movies you can't find anywhere else. However, if you're not wanting to pay 30 or more dollars, then you have to be on slow time as far as downloading these. And that it does not matter how fast your internet speed is. Because I was like, well, our internet speed's fast. We got fiber internet. Why ain't it faster? And Steve told me, basically this site is set up this way that if you don't pay, it's going to be slow. Now, I was used to 4 or 5 hours for a movie, but this was a 4 gig file. It was a Blu-ray rip, and so it took a little bit. Am I going to keep it? Probably not. I think Severn put this out. I don't know how long ago it was, but I think Severn put out a Blu-ray of this probably in the last few years or so. But this is Invaders of the Lost Gold. It's also under the title of Greed, which this downloaded copy had that title. Horror Safari is another title. I think that's what Steve knows it under. And he said he has it in a box set somewhere, he thinks. But I thought he meant it was in the Laura Gimser box set. But no, I didn't see it there. And as you can tell there, folks, Laura Gimser is in this movie. This is from 1982. And actually, both of these movies are from 1982. And Steve seemed to think that Laura Gimser wouldn't get naked in this. Well, folks, yeah, she does. Near the end of the movie, she gets naked finally. So, for you fans of Laura Gimser in her birthday suit, you can still see her naked before her ass dies. Sorry, spoiler. I'm not a Laura Gimser fan, folks. I ain't gonna lie. I mean, the woman was attractive back in the day, but and I'm not really knocking her for getting naked, but she made a career in movies of showing her body. I mean, Steve's got a whole Emmanuel box set back there that he spent a pretty penny on. And I don't really see the allure of it. I don't think that Laura Gimser was a good actress. So I'm guessing all she had going for her was tits and ass, basically, and looking good on screen when she's having sex with different guys, like the Emmanuel movies. And that's the box set that Steve has, a huge set of, I forget how many movies. Yeah. But Stuart Whitman is also on this. Edmund Purdom's on this. Woody Strode is on this, folks. I saw his name pop up, and when I saw him on the screen playing the character of Cal, I was like, I know that guy. And then when the credits rolled, it's a cow was Woody Strode. I was like, oh yeah. And I believe Woody Strode was on, I mean, he's probably been on a ton of stuff, but I believe he was on Kingdom of the Spiders as a farmer. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure he was. Oh, sorry. I see some comments here by X-Ray. Hey, X-Ray. You say you never heard of this. It stars Steve's favorite, Emmanuel. Yes, it does. Well, I don't know if you'd really say she's starring in it, but she's in it. Steve, what's a Laura Gumser? Actress she acted, well, I guess that's in the eye of the beholder, right? Huge sticky set. Oh man. But this is a decent movie, and I almost thought Laura Gemser wasn't going to get naked. But what was refreshing about this, in regards to Laura Gemser, was the fact that she did not get naked until near the end of the film, and then she gets killed off. So, the rest of the time, she was kind of moodily walking through scene after scene after scene, and she was easily ignored most of the time, in my opinion. So the movie starts out in like 1945, and the Japanese are having these guys, I guess, like smuggle gold out. And I don't know if you would call these guys cannibals. They're natives, right? They run around in loincloths and stuff like that. So they get attacked by this tribe, and they kill most of them off except three guys, and they vow that they'll come back to get this gold that they've hid away in a cave years and years later, but they won't go by themselves. It has to be all three of them, and they'll split the gold three ways. Okay. So then time goes on. Nope, I've never actually I've never made Steve wear a loincloth. No. I don't think he would, even if I asked him to, right? About the only thing Steve has worn about the house was at Halloween time, and he had a wrestling singlet on, and he's I'm not going to be real descriptive here, but he said he wished he hadn't done that, and he won't do that anymore. Nope, we've never role played Black Emmanuel. I'm like White Emmanuel. I hope I'm not like any Emmanuel. Those movies, I mean, if they're your cup of tea, if you're a guy or something, or even if you're a woman and you enjoy them, I mean, have at it. But just none of those Emmanuel movies have done it for me. Even the ones without Laura Gemser in them. I mean, yeah, they're exploitation, and they, I'm sure they titillate, and it's pleasurable for the members of the male audience. But they're just not my thing. And it's fine if they are your thing. But I was like, oh no, not Laura Gemser in this movie. Come on. Eastern Kentucky Emmanuel. Well, actually, we're not in Eastern Kentucky. We are in, I guess you would say, Central Kentucky. And I grew up in Western Kentucky, or Northwestern Kentucky, rather. Not far Western Kentucky. But yeah, in Louisville, we're kind of smack dab in the middle of Kentucky. But the Dead Pit Boys, they're in Eastern Kentucky. Some of our friends are in Eastern Kentucky and stuff. But so then we get introduced to Edmund Purtle, who goes to one of the guys that was one of the three that hid the gold in the cave back in 1945. And this is 1982. And Edmund Purtle pulls a gun out on this guy once he gets the map to where this cave is, and he shoots the guy and kills him. And then he goes to the second guy and says, basically your leader, your commanding officer is dead, because these were military guys apparently. And the guy says, "Well, I need a few minutes alone, Mr. Larson." He tells Edmund Burnham. And so he goes into a room, and once he takes out the sword, you can pretty much figure out what he's going to do. And he kills himself with the sword. And Edmund Burnham comes in there and says, "Oh, blast it!" It's just these overblown bad guys, because it's abundantly clear early on that Edmund Burnham is not a nice guy in this movie. Okay, he's pretty much an asshole. So he goes to the third guy, and the third guy agrees to go with him and help him with the help assistance of this map to find the cave where they hid the gold. Him and the two other guys back in 1945. So they get together with another guy. Whose daughter wants to go along. And at first, her father's like, "No, you're not going along with us. There's no reason for you to go along with us." But in the end, she ends up going. And they also get Stuart Whitman, who plays, I think his name's Mark Forrest. And Edmund Burnham's character of Mr. Larson hates Mark Forrest because years ago he said that Mark Forrest tried to kill him. And here's something odd. If you have not seen this and want to watch it and tell me I'm just totally wrong on this, that's okay. But I am pretty daggone sure that that is not Stuart Whitman's voice, that his voice was dubbed. Now, it sounds like Edmund Burnham's voice. I'm not sure about some of the other people, but I'm pretty sure that that is not Stuart Whitman's voice coming out of his mouth on that movie. So we find out that Mark had a thing for Laura Gimser's character of Maria years and years ago. But then after, he left the area where she was, his friend Fernando got with Maria. But Maria still has the hots for Stuart Whitman and for Mark. And she tries to come on to him once they get out in the jungles and stuff like that. And he's like, "Look, because he doesn't want to hurt his friend Fernando." And he says, "I have no feelings for you, Maria. Basically go away." And her heart's broken, but she goes away. And her and what's the girl's name? Forgetting the blonde's name. The daughter of the one safari guy. I'm just totally forgetting it. And I just watched this movie. It's Slim Whitman's. Yeah, it could be. Very well could be. So anyway, her and Laura Gimser's Maria character kind of bump heads a little bit, or butt heads at the beginning when they meet. And then they grow to like each other. And, Maria knows that this girl is in love with Mark. And there's a lovely kissing scene between her and Stuart Whitman's character that, I could have done without. But, I'm not saying Stuart Whitman back in the day was not a nice looking, like, older guy. Not elderly, but just older, distinguished guy. But he's pretty much an alcoholic when they first, show him. But then he gets, straightened up, and they go on this safari to find the gold. And there's people getting eaten by alligators. At the very beginning of it, when the soldiers are attacked by the tribe, heads get cut off, people fall on spikes. And then later on, when it's in present day, which is 1982, we have people getting killed off, and it's pretty bloody and stuff. Nope, Stuart Whitman was no Robert England. You're correct on that X-ray. but pretty decent movie. Oh, you get one guy that gets bit by a cobra and dies. I think it's a cobra. Um, so there's plenty of blood, albeit it's really, really bright, um, and sort of liquidy, too liquidy for real blood. But it's a nice little adventure story with some hokey elements in it and a few good deaths. I did notice from this transfer, even though it was a Blu-ray rip, though it was kind of rough at the beginning, and Steve told me to give it time. That a lot of times they'll look rough at the beginning, and then they get better towards the middle of the movie, or even earlier in some cases. And this one did, but it seemed like, I don't know if these were cut scenes and it was put back in, but like when the guy gets attacked by the alligator, the film gets real rough there. And there's other scenes where people get killed that it does that. Now, when Laura Gemser's character of Maria gets killed off, I don't even know what in the heck happens to her. I mean, there's no bullet holes or anything when they find her body. She gets naked, she goes in the water to swim, and the next thing you know, it's like somebody's grabbing her or something. But like the film gets so bad again that you really can't tell. And there are no marks on her body. When Woody Strode's character of Cal finds her body, there's no bullet holes, there's no stab wounds, there's nothing. I'm like, what the heck happened here? You know. But it's only an hour and 26 minutes, folks. It's not going to take up a whole lot of your time. And it's not an awful film. I just, could have done without Laura Gemser. I would have liked the death scenes to have been a little clearer on what was going on and all that stuff. So, I can't give it a 5. And I really can't give it a 4 either. But I know I don't have the half, folks. But if you can visualize a half there, I will give it 3.5 deadites out of 5. But frankly, that's as good as I can give to this movie, because besides the flaws that I just mentioned, um, the movie's kind of slow in parts. But it still is kind of like a fun little time waster of an adventure film. It's got plenty of blood and people getting, stabbed with sharp implements and getting their heads cut off and all that good stuff. So it fulfills a lot of those horror necessities, right? So anyway, I guess that is all for me for tonight. But I want to thank X-Ray for being in here and hanging out with me tonight as I talked over Pieces and Invaders of the Lost Gold. I also want to thank those of you that maybe didn't feel comfortable getting in the chat, those of you that were watching, because I did see a few people in and out. And also, I would like to thank those of you that will watch this on the replay. I really appreciate it. And I'm also going to tell you how you can support me and my channel, and it won't cost you a dime, folks. My short-term goal here is to get up to 1,000 subscribers, and you guys and gals can help me with that one of several ways. And these don't cost you a one thin dime. So if you have never subscribed to my channel, and you enjoy the content I'm putting out, please subscribe. You can hit the like button on things that you really, really like, or you can hit the like button on everything if you want to. That also helps me get up in the algorithms of YouTube. You can hit that notification bell so you don't miss any new content that I'm putting out, folks. And here's yet another way you can help me out here. You can let friends and family members know about my channel if you think that they would enjoy the content that I'm putting out. And that costs you absolutely nothing. That costs them absolutely nothing. And heck, maybe they'll want to subscribe too, right? And share my channel. So I guess that's it. And as always, I'm off like a dirty shirt. This shirt ain't dirty, but I'm off like one. And I want to remind everybody, as I always do before I get off of here for the night, to be kind to one another and blaze that trail. Have a fantastic rest of your Tuesday night, folks. And I'll see everybody next time.